Welcome to Glenda Blasts Your Ear Off, flash fiction stories written by Josh Busch and narrated by Glenda Villamar. Enjoy! You have 1,440 minutes in a day. Use 5 of those minutes and visit freerice.com to play trivia games and help end world hunger. freerice.com. If you would like to donate to help support the podcast, you can donate at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com. And you can also buy our ebook anthology, compiling the stories from our first 10 episodes. You can find our book on lulu.com. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Episode 15, Things That Fall from the Sky. Dayla couldn't believe her luck. Her brother, Kent's, was out in the open without his customary band of armed toadies. Clan Kent's was getting sloppy. Dayla quietly and slowly stepped off of her motorcycle, as did 4 of her tribe. Daya flashed hand signals for them to be as quiet as a gentle wind, and they all glided forward. Kent's was standing in front of a short wall of rocks. Why he was there, Dayla couldn't say, but she thought he looked sad as he stared down at the ground. Once, Dayla would have felt concern for her brother, but that time was long past. The past. Why did it come back to her now? Their mother had died from a plague when Dayla was 7, and Kent's 9. Their father raised them then. He never took another wife. He said there was no replacing perfection. And so, with no mate to distract him, their father put all of his attention on Dayla and Kent's, turning them into the best of their tribe, the bravest of warriors who thought before they did anything. Dayla spoke up loudly. "Hello, brother." Kent's whipped around to face her. Dayla was delighted to see the shock on his face. Kent's coughed. "Dayla, you found me, and it seems I am outnumbered. Greatly so. You seem very pleased with yourself." "Wouldn't you be?" "Kent's, where is it? And don't play coy with me. You know I mean the Noth." Kent's shrugged. "It's not on me." The Noth. The birth of their feud. Dayla can still see it in her mind, like it just happened. That day the rectangle fell from the sky. As it fell to the ground, it burned, and behind, a trail of white smoke. It slammed into the ground, and the ground shook. The noise it made! Dayla hadn't known anything could be that loud. It was louder than cracks of thunder. Dayla, Kent's, and her father had raced to the rectangle. They had coughed passing through the dust cloud that had given birth when the rectangle had smacked into the ground. When they got there, Dayla saw the thing was open, like a cave, and there were strange things inside. Things not made of this world. Things from somewhere else. But how could that be? She had wondered. It hurt her brain. It still did. Where did the rectangle come from? They had played with things in the rectangle. One of the first objects they discovered repeated anything anyone would say into it, exactly how they said it. How is that possible? But that was nothing compared to what the other objects could do. Dayla had been outside the rectangle, sitting on the ground, and from the object she held, an orange light shot out and hit a nearby pebble. The pebble grew in size, like a kid turning into an adult in mere seconds. The object's light kept shining, and the pebble grew even larger. The ground cracked as the pebble got wider and taller, expanding and expanding. Their father had run over, screaming to Dayla, "Drop it! Drop it! Put it down!" But Dayla didn't, and her father knocked it from her hands. The pebble had immediately stopped growing, and her father held her as a terrified Dayla couldn't stop shaking. Later that day, in the weeks that followed, the tribe found many strange objects in the rectangle. Objects that could turn mud into water. Objects that produced seeds that they planted. And when they harvested those crops, they ate delicious food that none of them had ever eaten before. Another object dug holes into the ground that turned into tunnels that went deep, so deep that the tribe could almost find no end without taking fire with them, and extra branches to keep the fire alive after torch had died out. Dela and Kent's tribe had grown great in the lands by harnessing the power of the objects they found from the rectangle that had fallen from the sky. But that day had also spelled tragedy for Dela and Kent's, the Noth. Dela and Kent's both wanted to play with it. They were both tugging at it. Both became angry with the other. Dela could still see in her mind's eye her father coming over to split the two apart. The yellow sky behind him, the white clouds. There had been a pleasant breeze that gave relief from the hot day. Her father had yelled, "Be careful! You don't know what it can do! Stop fighting, you two! Give it to me!" He wrenched it free from both of their hands. He walked backwards, turned around, walked away, presumably to get it away from the arguing siblings, did something with the Noth, and Dela watched in horror as a red light flashed, which surrounded their father. Dela watched her father turn translucent. He was no longer flesh and blood and bone, but instead like a fog. Then her father was pulled into the Noth, and he vanished. The Noth fell to the ground. Dela and Kent's ran to the Noth and tried to get the Noth to open up and let their father out. But no matter what they did, they couldn't get their father out. Not that day, not the week after, nor the weeks after that, nor the 12 years that had gone by until today. Dela looked at her smirking brother. "Let me guess. It's in your base." Kent's replied, "Correct. Where else would it be? It's safe with my tribe. Oh, look at the frown on your face." The Noth had gone back and forth over the years, from one sibling to the next, as they stole it from the other, over and over, as both tried to unsuccessfully unlock the Noth to free their father, and to hold on to that last bit of their father that they could, of his life, of his tender love for them. But it wasn't enough. He remained absent, but the ache remained. Dela blamed Kent's for the accident, and in turn, Kent's blamed Dela. Their feud had split their father's tribe. Now both were the alpha of their tribes, and they fought one another for dominance of the lands. Dela taunted, "But I still have you." Kent's put a finger up to his lips and said, "Do you, though? What? Is the reality of your situation settling in, and the panic is affecting your mind?" From behind the rock outcropping, 30 members of Tribe Kent stood up, and Dela saw that she had fallen into her brother's trap. Kent asked, "What were you saying about panic settling in?" "Put your weapons down." Clan Dela obeyed, and sounding defeated, Dela asked, "Now what?" Kent walked over to her and spoke matter-of-factly. "It's simple, really. You'll surrender your tribe to me, and our quarrel is over. I win, and if you continue to fight, I'll be forced to eliminate you." "You mean kill?" Kent said back, "You'd do no less." But fate has a funny way of stepping in and changing absolutely everything, because in the sky, just as 12 years ago, a rectangle appeared. It was on fire, and behind it a trail of white smoke. Dela said urgently, "Get the Noth! Maybe this rectangle can finally unlock Father!" Kent groaned. "Maybe you're right. It might, but the rectangle looks like it's going to land in Clan Yabe's territory." Dela grinned. "Clan Yabe is large. Your tribe can't defeat them on your own, and I won't give you my tribe." Kent growled. "Fine. If you agree to stand with me to fight Clan Yabe, then I'll let you keep your tribe. You can't let Clan Yabe get any objects from this new rectangle. They'll overpower us both." "Agreed. Let's gather our tribes and meet back here. And Kent, don't forget the Noth." "I won't, sister." And he ran off with his tribe behind him. Dela and her tribe got on the bikes, went to their base, gathered up all her tribe, and they returned to the agreed-upon meeting spot. What happened then hadn't happened in 12 years since their father had fallen into the Noth. His tribe rode on their motorcycles as one tribe together. With Clan Dela and Clan Kent working together, and with all of their objects from the previous rectangle, Clan Yabe was run off, and the new rectangle was theirs. Dela didn't know if it'd be her or her brother who'd attack the other tribes first, but they both knew it was coming. The objects in the new rectangle were far too valuable. Dela tentatively approached Kent. Do you have the Noth on you?" Kent's turned to her, and she saw the Noth. It took 2 hands to hold the round object. It was silver, and the center was lined with 2 rows of notches that looked like teeth that met in the middle. Kent nodded at Dela, and as one, they approached the rectangle. Dela said, "Didn't we just do this?" Her brother snorted. "It feels that way, doesn't it?" The rectangle was open, and as they stepped inside, Dela bit her lip. Here they were again, after all these fruitless years of trying to free their father. It was agony to be so reminded of her failure, and to see what had become of her relationship with Kent's. Dela saw it first. "Kent's! There's another one!" Kent said, "I'm going to set our Noth next to that one, and I don't know, maybe something'll happen." Dela hoped that if something did happen, that it didn't involve her getting sucked into the new Noth, so she didn't say anything about Kent's volunteering to be the one to have the Noths meet one another. Kent set their Noth right next to the new Noth, and he quickly backed away, not keeping his eye off the silver balls. Dela gritted her teeth. "Come on, work! Do something! Anything!" But nothing did, and minutes went by. Dela and Kent stepped closer to one another, and they did something they hadn't done in over a decade. They hugged one another, and this time there was no stopping Dela's tears. She could feel Kent's chest rising up and down as he sobbed too. Then, red light filled the inside of the rectangle. Dela let go of Kent's, turned to the Noths, not knowing what to expect, and she couldn't believe it. Her father was standing there, and he hadn't aged a day. Dela asked in a soft voice, "Father, is that you? Is it really you?" He confirmed, "Yeah, it's me. But is that you, Dela, and Kent? My precious children! You're all grown up. How? What happened?" Kent stammered, "You were sucked into one of the objects that came from the sky. We couldn't get you out. It's been 12 years. 12 whole years." Their father ran his hand over his hair. "That's a long time. A really long time. I hope in my absence you've been good to one another." Dela whispered, "Not exactly." The end. Thank you for listening to today's episode. We look forward to bringing you the next episode in Glenda Blasts Your Ear Off.